Hi folks, so here we are talking about the new moon solar eclipse in Capricorn that occurred yesterday on December the 25th at 9:13 p.m. Pacific Coast time, so December the 26th for a number of you. And it feels perfectly appropriate to be doing this on a cold and a gray day, but who knows, the sun may come out. 2020 certainly starts off with a bang. The astrology is unusually intense. As I mentioned in my Mercury and Sagittarius video yesterday, there is a narrative of intensity between the signs of Scorpio, where we had Mercury retrograde in November, in Capricorn, where we have this extraordinary buildup of planets right now, long-term and short-term, till about the end of January, and then the sign of Pisces that starts to experience its transits as early January, but then experiences a Mercury retrograde in February and March. There is a connection between whatever it is that is building up in these signs, whether the connection has to do with purging and dealing with old energies, and in addition, I think, making room for the new. They go hand in hand. And the reason why I say that is that the Mercury retrogrades currently, and especially over the last year, have been occurring in the three water signs of Scorpio, Pisces, to come in February and March, and Cancer. The eclipses are on the Cancer-Capricorn axis. So wherever the eclipses occur, whenever eclipses occur in one sign, Cancer, and if that's a water sign, in the sign of Capricorn, the opposite sign where the other eclipses are occurring, is automatically drawn into this. As I've mentioned, in between all this, we are having transits in Sagittarius and Aquarius that hopefully act as a bit of a compass for us. A compass, in the case of Sagittarius, with our own passion and truth, and our own sense of independent values and connection with spirit, and with the sign of Aquarius, I suspect, of maintaining a sense of independent and rational inquiry, of not getting swept up by emotional involvements or attachments, either if they are your own or if they're being presented externally. If they're enticements. Aquarius is not a sign to get enticed. Okay. When it comes to the new moon in Capricorn, we currently have, of course, the sun and the moon, Jupiter. I've already done a video on Jupiter and Capricorn. The South Node, which is why we have an eclipse here. Saturn and Pluto, all in Capricorn. We had Venus here recently, but she's now moved on into Aquarius. And in 3 days' time, Mercury is going to come in here on the 28th, 2 days' time. That is a large number of planets. In addition, the planets are weaving a very complex and complicated tale. Outside of the new moon solar eclipse in Capricorn that occurred yesterday, there's another transit that is coming up on January the 12th with the planets Saturn and Pluto coming together and becoming conjunct, that on January the 12th, that also makes for a very intense start to the year. Now, I will always argue that when a transit happens, it's not the day when it happens, it's the days, and sometimes in the case of Saturn and Pluto, the months leading up to it. When it really makes its presence felt. And with Saturn and Pluto and the way these planets go retrograde and direct, even if they're just going to go conjunct once on January the 12th, they come close to each other and flirt with each other enough. So if this is Pluto and this is Saturn, and Saturn moves faster than Pluto, then with their directs and retrogrades, they come close to each other enough to start weaving the tale either before the direct conjunction on January the 12th and even after, as Saturn is going to go into Aquarius in March, I think, and then dip back into Capricorn in August, or in July, actually, as early as July the 1st, I think. So and then it'll come back close to Pluto again. So even if they won't meet again directly after January the 12th, they will again. It's a rich, long story that will continue to unfold, and that has other chapters to follow. A new moon is always the start of a new 28-day cycle. So we've got that going on. And certainly the time before a new moon can feel very flat and depressed and difficult to get work done and difficult to get moving. So if you had that as recently as 14, 15, 16 hours ago, you know why. The new moon brings in new energy And gradually, as the new moon escalates over the next 14 days to the next full moon on January the 10th, there's an increase in intensity and increase in energy. A new moon solar eclipse, and this was a total eclipse. A new moon solar eclipse inaugurates energies that are at play from the time of the solar eclipse in the sign to the time of the lunar eclipse in that sign. And so we've got December 25th or 26th or maybe 24th where you're at. December 25th, I'm going to use the same time zone that I'm in, to July the 4th of 2020 is one 6-odd month cycle. We have the new moon solar eclipse in Capricorn, and we have the full moon lunar eclipse in Capricorn, thank you, on July the 4th of 2020. So that's one 6-month odd cycle. With eclipses, I find that the 2-month date after the solar eclipse, so that would be February the 25th, and the 2-month date prior to the lunar eclipse. Sorry for folks who've been following this video who are aware of this, which would be May the 4th, are also important dates. So the new moon yesterday, and by important dates I don't mean vaguely important, I mean like a few days before, a few days after, maximum a week before, a week after. So we've got new moon solar eclipse on the 25th, next important date February 25th, next important date May the 4th, next important date July the 4th, one arc. Eclipses also do not happen in the same sign in isolation. I think this eclipse primer, even if you know all about it, is important and helpful just to get you a sense of these dates. The Cancer Capricorn eclipses started on July the 12th of 2018 and will be around, really for all intents and purposes, active till about, I'm tempted to say September, October of this year. There's a new moon solar eclipse in Cancer that occurs in July of 2020, but there isn't a corresponding Cancer lunar eclipse. In the second half of 2020, the eclipses move from the Cancer Capricorn axis to the Gemini Sagittarius axis. Okay, so the Cancer Capricorn eclipses are now in their, I'm going to call it the final phase. And by the middle of 2020, even though there's one final sign-off handoff that occurs particularly relevant for the sign of Cancer, the eclipses are going to move into Gemini and Sagittarius and bring in a new set of energies and a new set of changes in our lives. July 12th of 2018 and September 12th of 2018 was the first Cancer eclipse. It occurred on July the 12th of 2018. The September 12th date is important because it's the 2 months after July the 12th. That was when these energies were introduced. Then the energies came up again on January the 5th, 2019, and have been will remain pretty consistently active till July the 4th of 2020, where there were corresponding, the eclipses come back to back. There's a new moon and a full moon, or a full moon and a new moon. So we, for example, right now have the new moon solar eclipse on Christmas Day, and then on January the 10th, we are going to have the full moon lunar eclipse in Cancer that corresponds to the July 5th, I think. I need to look that date up. July 5th, 2019 solar eclipse in Cancer. So we are in this 2-week window now where a new set of eclipses in Capricorn has started, and on 2 weeks from now, on January the 10th of 2020, is going to be the final closing out chapter of the Cancer eclipses that are currently at play. The Cancer and Capricorn axis and eclipses go hand in hand. And if an eclipse occurs in the sign of Cancer, that does not mean that the sign of Capricorn is not triggered. It is triggered. It's a joint narrative. And with eclipses, there are eclipses of what I call leaning into and eclipses of release. The eclipses of leaning into occur in the sign of Cancer, where the North Node is, where our hero's journey is, where we need to face some sort of a challenge or clear a path or take on something and learn and grow and develop from it, or where rewards lie. And in the sign of Capricorn is the eclipse of release, where we have to release something that we are attached to, either material or an attachment to the way things should be, or an attachment to some aspect of our personality that is overly strong but has outlived its purpose, and there's no fulfillment there. And if anything, if we continue to hold on to it, there's only greater risk and even disaster, frankly, by just holding on to something. When the boat is trying to move in the direction of Cancer and you're holding on to Capricorn so tightly, the universe will come in and intervene in some way where you're forced to let go of whatever it is you're resisting letting go of, so that you can actually move in the direction that you need to, because that is where your development and evolution lies. It will be extraordinarily helpful to take a look at your chart and understand which houses the signs of Cancer and Capricorn are in. I'm talking about Western tropical astrology. I'm not talking about Jyotish, because the eclipses may not be in the same signs. So if you have a Western chart, either one that I've made for you or one that you consult, they are available for free online. I use the whole sign system, WHOLE, but however you want to use it, where have the eclipses in Cancer and Capricorn been occurring? And they've been active since July the 12th of 2018. With the Cancer eclipses, we have two smaller eclipses in the middle of, with the bigger cycle in between. We have July the 12th, which doesn't have a corresponding lunar eclipse in 2018. We have late June, I think, or July of 2020, which doesn't have a corresponding lunar eclipse in Cancer in 2020, but we're just at the tail end of the real Cancer eclipse cycle that started around July the 5th and continues on 2019 and continues to January the 10th of 2020. This is where we are meant to lean into and take something on and deal with it and tackle it, and is often presented to us as a series of challenges that we have to somehow take some sort of a proverbial sword to and manage and handle and deal with these kinds of energies. Correspondingly, they're the eclipses of release. The eclipse release, interestingly, have two complete cycles. One from January the 5th of last year. I'm talking about last year. This is a tricky time. To be precise, January the 5th of 2019, which is still this year. One from January the 5th of 2019 to July the 16th of 2019. That was one eclipse cycle in Capricorn. So you would need to look at dates January 5th, Feb 5th, May 16th, July 16th as markers for the first round of the Capricorn eclipses. And now we have the second round of Capricorn eclipses with greater intensity. One way to analyze and look at this particular eclipse cycle is to look back at the first half of January and try to get a sense of, particularly around those dates, what it was that was being released, or had the release process had somehow been initiated. Now, it could be that something starts to gain and escalate in intensity at the time of the solar eclipse, and 2 weeks later at the time of the corresponding lunar eclipse is when some sort of release has to take place. For instance, in very literal terms, I had a cat who was very unwell, and it was after the solar eclipse in the house of pets for me on January the 5th of 2019 that she really that there was no turning back. And it was till the end of the month, January the 25th, I think, when she passed. But you know, the process, that eclipse happened, and we were off to, the process was terminating. Eclipses also, as I've mentioned in videos before, can announce transitions of all sorts, including transitioning for people who, announcements of terminal diagnoses, people dealing with the idea of transitioning from this plane to the next, death, etc. There's a greater frequency of information exchanged on the topic of leaving our mortal coil at around the time of eclipses and dates related to eclipses. Okay, so let me try and pull this together. The eclipse cycle we're in has been active since July the 12th of 2018. It continues to work its way with us in terms of the transitions and the changes that it is creating in our lives till September of 2020. In the middle of 2020, the eclipse axis changes to eclipses falling in Gemini and Sagittarius. We'll deal with that when we get to the middle of 2020. We've got enough on our plate just at the end of December and January alone. The eclipses of release in Capricorn started up for the second time on December the 25th, yesterday, and they will have a corresponding lunar eclipse on July the 4th, 2020, 1 6-month cycle, with February 25th and May the 4th of 2020 being important dates. This is a revisiting of themes that announced themselves on January the 5th of 2019 through July the 16th of 2019. So if we had one wave of needing to deal with and tackle certain things between January and July of 2019, it could be that we have to handle things in a more decisive manner in 2020, so that certain changes, so that the rug that is being pulled from under our feet, the change that the universe is trying to make, the accelerated change and development, because human beings are generally resistant to change, and we all are for the most part, even if those of us who welcome it like to do it on our own terms. When it comes to areas where we need to develop or things we need to release, at times it's the eclipses that give the universe, God, Spirit, the portal to come in and take the wheel from us and actually make those changes. All eclipses are not heartbreaking. Sometimes eclipses bring in opportunities, significant opportunities, professional opportunities, personal opportunities, someone you meet who you ultimately end up with in a serious or significant way, and you look back to when you met and you realized it was under the shadow of an eclipse, blah, blah, blah. Knowing where Cancer and Capricorn are on your chart are important because it tells you where these changes have been occurring. There's a dialogue between leaning into the Cancer side of the chart and releasing something on the Capricorn side of the chart. Okay, enough. Now let me develop other themes. This year, we have the Sun here, which makes sense because we would not have a new moon without the Sun being in Capricorn. So we're already doing our annual review of the sign of Capricorn, wherever that is in our chart. We have had a new moon, we've had an eclipse. This eclipse is right next to the planet Jupiter, and the Jupiter and Capricorn video I have already done. When a planet is close to the Sun, it is considered combust. However, we cannot ignore that Jupiter is a planet, in my opinion, of endings and new beginnings as well. Blessed, the right kind of ending and new beginning. But Jupiter does have a tendency of coming in and clearing the slate and creating a blank space so that something can be moved in. And we have this eclipse of release. Jupiter being combust currently for another 15-20 days means that on multiple levels, Jupiter is compromised. It's compromised by being in Capricorn, by being ruled by Saturn. Saturn is conjunct Pluto. The energies are kind of dark, and Jupiter, as being one of the planets that assists us with luck and things that can get us out of sticky situations, is very compromised right now. So it could be that whatever it is that is being brought to us, even if there are positive opportunities, will have a certain amount of work that needs to be done. As I mentioned, when it comes to Jupiter and Capricorn, work is worship. Your luck will come from your efforts. Your luck will come from sticking to the straight and narrow. Your luck will come from being morally ethical, karmically ethical. Your luck will come from being good and not naughty. And by good, I mean serious and disciplined and careful and transparent and open, and not from trying to get away with something, because Jupiter just, it's not going to help you. So even if you're stuck and you get pulled over by a cop, this is not the time to try to get out of something necessarily. This is the time to just be like, yep, that was me, this is what happened, blah, 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 stick to the straight and narrow. If you are brought an opportunity that requires a certain amount of work, do the work. Roll up the sleeves, do the work. Do the work. That is how the manifestation will occur. It's not going to be a time when you can show up and expect to be brilliant, because the planet of luck that might assist you in those situations is compromised. At the same time, this is an eclipse that is next to the planet of, as one astrologer I consulted put it, auspicious new beginnings. So we have the eclipse of release next to a planet of auspicious new beginnings that also creates an ending, because you can only have a new beginning with an ending. It is possible that the opportunities, if there are opportunities that are being brought to us, even if they feel small, with Jupiter, it's a beginning, it's not bounty. Jupiter is often associated with bounty. My experience of Jupiter is that it can give you plenty and a bounty, no question, but more often than not, I find Jupiter creating a trickle. The first drop, the first door crack. So if there are opportunities that have been coming up over the past couple of weeks that really now take on and that you have to put in a certain amount of effort into, especially as you head into January, give it your all and don't judge or discount the opportunity, because there may be the new beginnings, there may be something to this cycle. Wherever Jupiter is, it creates the start of a 12-year cycle, and it's being aided by an eclipse. However compromised it is, we can't take away from the fact that this eclipse is next to Jupiter. Yes, Jupiter's compromised for another few weeks, but that's going to end. This is a fated and an important eclipse. And we all feel eclipses at different times in different ways. So the intensity of the Capricorn eclipses, I may have felt it in 2019. But the astrology is pretty intense. Both Jupiter is managed by Saturn, and this eclipse is ruled by Saturn. And Saturn is in its own sign of Capricorn. It's very strong. The straight and narrow, disciplined martial arts teacher. Have you run around? What is good for you? Why are you eating this? You should be doing this. You should be learning your lines. You should be writing. You should be being careful of what you eat. You should be getting enough sleep. You should be doing the right thing, planet. It's the planet of, do you love yourself enough to fulfill your potential? And that, in Saturn's eyes, takes dedication and takes the right kind of hard work. And in Saturn's mind, a connection to spirit is through the right kind of work, not in a Jupiterian, I'm going to wish and wait and pray and listen to my guides. Saturn is conjunct Pluto, the planet of death and transformation. And by conjunct, I mean on the 12th, they're going to meet up. They're very close. Saturn is an extraordinary, this is a fated eclipse. So if you're experiencing new beginnings and if you're experiencing endings, you are going to have to use a phrase that I'm not crazy about, but I'll use it. You're going to have to lean into it and deal with it. And if there are opportunities that are coming your way with this new moon solar eclipse conjunct Jupiter, however humble they might be, roll up your sleeves and go in and meet them. And do your best at them. The eclipses of release are happening in Capricorn, and yet we have the planet of new beginnings, auspicious new beginnings in Capricorn. At least that would make sense because, as I said, new beginnings can only occur when something has to end. So there's a conversation there. When it comes to Pluto, the planet of death and transformation being in Capricorn, that also aligns to some extent because something really does have to be transformed in a way that we have no control over. With Pluto, you have no control over what's going to, you have to simply, I'm not even going to say you have to work with the energy, you just have to be in a space of radical acceptance. With Saturn, though, this becomes very complicated because wherever Saturn is interested in building a serious foundation and giving you a sense of serious achievement. How do you build or gain achievement in a certain part of the chart where something needs to be released? And that is an interesting conversation that, if this resonates with you, I'm going to ask you to think about. Saturn is transiting Capricorn, has been transiting Capricorn since December the 17th, 2020, and it will be here till the end of 2020. Briefly, from March to July, as I mentioned, it will go into Aquarius, but then come right back to finish up. I consider Saturn, I know people don't consider it this way. I am very convinced and very clear that it's a planet of self-love. It is concerned with our potential. It is concerned with our gifts. It is concerned with our karmic appointments, why we were born, what it is that God requires us to do. It wants us to roll up our sleeves, and it wants us to be in a space of achievement. Capricorn is a sign of achievement. Okay. Clear. Marching orders. Saturn also is ruthless and really asks us to look at our patterns and boundaries, either in relationship to ourself primarily and others, with regard to where we have self-defeating or defeating relationships and boundaries in place that are not letting us achieve our highest potential, what we are here to achieve. This could be in the shape of relationships, this could be in the shape of patterns, addictions, whatever it is that is holding us back. Sometimes in relationships that are near and dear and close to us that we can't possibly imagine are holding us back. But under Saturn's transit, it becomes very, very clear that not everyone you think that counts. And Saturn will make that very, very clear. The question is whether we get in the boat and with the program or not. So whether it is a personal set of boundaries or patterns or habits that you have outgrown that are no longer serving you, that you need to reform, whether it is relationships, somewhere the idea of doing Saturn does not reward frivolity. It does not reward anything that is casual. If you take something on while Saturn is in a particular place, if you agree to do the hard work of managing your relationship, of getting yourself to be in the right place, of dedicating yourself to the task at hand, wherever Saturn is, in this case wherever Capricorn is in your chart, Saturn will reward you greatly. With the presence of this eclipse of release and the planet of auspicious new beginnings and the planet of building a foundation and the planet of death and transformation in the same part of the chart, it could be that some sort of a crisis is created in order to effect that new beginning. If these transits are happening in the part of the chart that have to do with your health, first house, maybe sixth house, this could be the time when something falls apart in a way that you are forced to take action, if you haven't been already. If it falls in the sign of romance, this could be the time when you have to make certain choices. Is this for the long term or is this not? If it falls in the part of the chart that has to do with children, this could be the 6 months when it really is determined what happens to those relationships in the longer term. If it has to do with the professional side of things, the home and family, if it has to do with real estate and property, it could be the year when you move in a significant way or something needs to be released, and it's just endings and new beginnings. Okay, let me start to summarize this. 2020 starts with a bang. If you have been getting some opportunities or things that have made you perk up, especially if they're related to where Capricorn sits in your chart, take them seriously. The narrative is complicated, but it is very clear. There's an intensity and there's a combined narrative building with the signs of Scorpio and Capricorn and Pisces. And then later on in 2020, Gemini, and then Cancer, which are next to each other. We'll tackle those when we need to tackle those and get to that point. But your emotional lives and your sense of achievement in the world are where the intense transits are taking place. This set of eclipses is a replay of eclipses in the same part of the chart that occurred from January to July of 2019. Now we have from Christmas to July the 4th, Christmas 2019 to July the 4th in 2020. So if one tidal wave, the first tidal wave did not take away the building, maybe this second tidal wave will, or it will crack the building enough that whatever needs to be released can finally be released as time goes on. Eclipses introduce changes that we are dealing with for years to come, but this is when the wrecking ball hits the building. The dates I've already mentioned that are important are December 25th, February 25th, 2020, May the 4th, 2020, July the 4th, 2020. We're going to wait and see how this grows. We are in a very tricky period between Christmas and January 10th, 2020, when we have the full moon lunar eclipse in Cancer. And so when we're in between eclipses, the narrative can become, it's really time to pay attention to what is coming up, what is being announced. Opportunities, if it's positive opportunities that are coming up, no matter how humble, give it your best shot. If it is stuff that needs to be released, it will become clear as to what this is as time goes on. Understand where the sign of Cancer is in your chart so you know which direction you need to move in and what dragons you need to slay there in order to develop and grow on your journey. And with the sign of Capricorn, understand what needs to be released. Is it something physical, a relationship, a person, possessions, or is it, and it usually is, an attachment to something more emotional or more spiritual, a belief system, patterns, boundaries, behaviors. There's a complexity to the transits in Capricorn because it is a time for new beginnings, but the new beginnings can only be created with endings. Some of these new beginnings we have control over, some of it we don't. These are very fated, very epic, very transformational times, especially if you have something like a Capricorn ascendant. I mean, wow. So it's time to wrap up. It's time. The cake is baked and the timer has run. And the cake is out, and it is time to close out this cycle of eclipses that have been in play since July 2018. And the first 6 months of the year are going to require us to do that in pretty significant ways. So fasten your seatbelts, pay attention to where it is. Try to find the links between these eclipses and January 5th, March 5th, May 16th, and July 16th of 2019 if you can. Get a sense of where this is going. Understand that you can't just look at the sign of Capricorn, you also have to look at the sign of Cancer. And be prepared to start working with the energies and pay attention to what the signs and opportunities and warnings and what needs to be released are telling you. And try to align with your intuition and where does you think the messages are coming from and what the opportunities look like, what has a slightly magical quality, whether it feels positive or challenging. And in a few days' time, in a couple of days' time, Mercury will move out of Sagittarius. So the current hindrance to our following our intuition is going to be removed. One more thing that is coming up for me to mention. The month of January has this backup of planets in Capricorn in an intense way. But then around February the 17th, Mars moves into Capricorn. Shortly before the new moon in Pisces, that is the 2-month marker of the it's shortly after, actually, February the 17th, after that new moon in Aquarius. Sorry, ignore the astrologer trying to go through his brain right now. Bottom line is Mars moves into Capricorn February the 17th and will be there till the end of March. That might be the time period when you take some serious action around whatever it is that is falling apart, or are really either in execution mode on it, or are having to, that you're going to be dealing with stuff at that time. If the changes are being announced right now, know that when Mars comes into Capricorn around February the 17th till the end of March is when a lot of your energy and passion and drive is going to be in this part of the chart, and when things will have to be handled and managed. And interestingly, that happens at the time when Mercury goes retrograde in Pisces. More of that to follow. I think that for this particular video, what I'm being called on to say is pay attention to what is coming up and has been coming up for the past couple of weeks. There are 2 videos I'm going to link to at the end of this, Jupiter and Capricorn, and a couple of days ago I did a video on the state